Welcome to our weekly episode of the Flourishing Fridays podcast here on E-Radio, where we chat to Julia Tew of the Circular Stage Consultancy. I'm curious to hear what this week's episode is all about, Julia. Are you going to tell us?
I am. Thank you, Ian. And as usual, it's a pleasure to be here on E-Radio, especially seeing as you're such a feel-good radio station. But I do have to admit that today I'm not really feeling so good myself. I'm a little bit blue. I'm usually one of those irritating optimists with a glass half full attitude all the time. But these past weeks have been a bit tough, I cannot lie.
I'm sorry to hear that you're having a rough time, Julia. Would it help to talk about it? You know what they say, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, Ian. And I have to say, great active listening skills there too. Yes, I'm not even sure where to start, but I think one of the things that's affecting my state of mind today is the big C, cancer. And it's not lost on me that, in fact, this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, being October. And Ian, in just the past few weeks, within my group of extended friends and family, breast cancer has claimed the lives of 3 amazing women, moms, wives, sisters, friends, beautiful people inside and out. And look, I mean, this is nothing new. Big C was definitely around back when I was a kid. We lost my mom and her sister to breast cancer, which left our little young families in quite a state. But today, breast cancer has become the number 1 malignant tumor in the world, Ian, and it's being diagnosed in younger and younger patients. And what they're finding is that it's not just the lifestyle factors like diet and stress and exercise that are driving up the numbers and making us sad. Researchers have found 921 chemicals that potentially increase your risk of getting breast cancer. Ooh. And 90% of these chemicals are found in our everyday household products, our food and our drinks, the pesticides we use on our crops and our lawns and our playgrounds. And they are in our workplaces. They are in our medications. They're in our cosmetics. In fact, there was a study that found that women who use chemical hair straighteners more than 6 times a year had about a 30% higher risk of breast cancer than those who didn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I actually saw a post on social media today, Ian, which was very relevant to that. And it said, how about instead of companies displaying pink ribbons this month, they just remove the carcinogens from their products, which I think was a pretty good one to post. Anyways, I know these are super heavy topics, and I'm sure that almost everyone listening to this podcast has their own personal story and sad story to tell along these lines. Am I right, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely, Julia. And, cancer is getting closer and closer to home. I'm sorry to hear about your loss. It's not easy. And I'm sure it also, it probably scares you as well, that it's coming so close, You're probably wondering, what if I'm next?
You do, which is why, I do everything in my power to make sure that I am trying to ward off cancer through my mindset, my habits. I go for regular checks, obviously. I check myself. I go for scans.
Good.
And I've also cut out animal products from my diet, so that also helps a lot. But anyway, it is not my intention to bring everyone down today with these sad topics. It's actually quite the opposite. So despite the cancer epidemic and all the other sad news headlines about our escalating conflicts in the world and climate crises and extreme poverty and disappearing rainforests, which really do get to the heart of the sadness, I have also been super fortunate to be part of a really special and unique experience last week. one of camaraderie and compassion and coming together. So what was this amazing event? Well, it was the annual Inner Development Goals Summit, which has been taking place every year in Stockholm in Sweden and online, thankfully, since 2022. Have you ever been lucky enough to go to Sweden or to Stockholm, Ian?
Only in my dreams, Julia.
You and me both. You and me both.
Oh.
So I didn't get to go in person, but I do attend online, and it's an amazing event. It brings together people from all over the globe to celebrate what was initially seen by quite a few people as a radical concept. The idea that in order for us to achieve tangible change or transformation or improvements in our outer world, we need to start by changing on the inside, to start with our own personal inner growth, our inner development. But is it actually such a radical concept? If you do some digging on Google or ChatGPT, you might discover that a lot of clever people have been saying something very similar along these lines for a very long time. Maybe we just haven't been listening to them. So as far back as 300 BC, the Greek philosopher Socrates was recorded as saying, "Let him that would move the world move himself." And the novelist Leo Tolstoy from Russia, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself." We can look at Jimi Hendrix, the legendary singer-songwriter, probably one close to your heart, Ian, seeing as you probably hugely into music.
Yep.
In order to change the world, you have to get your head together first. And another favorite, Maya Angelou, the American poet and civil rights activist. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude.
I love that one.
Lovely. Hey, and another similar one by our dear friend and talk show host Oprah Winfrey. The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. So, I could go on for hours, but we get the picture, don't we, Ian?
Yeah, definitely. Loud and clear, yeah.
Loud and clear. So now you might be wondering, the summit that I'm talking about, why or how did the Inner Development Goals, or the IDGs, as we fondly like to call them, come into existence in the first place? What is their story? So the IDGs came about essentially as a response to an earlier set of goals called, and you might know these ones, the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The United Nations introduced these global goals way back in 2015 as a universal call to action for countries to do things like end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people can enjoy peace and prosperity. And they set the goal as being the year 2030, when we were meant to have reached all of these wonderful SDGs. And I can't obviously show you pictures on radio, but you've probably seen the SDG framework somewhere. It's a set of 17 colored boxes, with each one containing a goal like no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, sustainable cities, climate action, etc., etc. And while some of us may or may not have heard or read about these SDGs since 2015, the truth is that there has not been a great deal of progress in moving the needle on any of them. In fact, in this year's SDG report, they revealed that the world is severely off track in reaching these goals. Only 16% of them are on track to be met globally by 2030, which is now only 6 years away, with the remaining 84% showing limited progress or a reversal of progress. They're actually going backwards. Yikes. Why are we not seeing more progress, Ian?
Why not?
I don't expect you to answer that. So there are some people who decided to. So some groups of very clever people belonging to a number of different organizations came together in different locations, including Sweden, and on different dates, to to look at coming up with an answer to this conundrum. Why are we not moving ahead with the SDGs? And their answer eventually was that it's not really a sustainability crisis that we're facing. We're actually facing a behavioral crisis, a skills crisis in another way. So it turns out that we humans appear to be lacking the inner capacity we need to effectively deal with these increasingly complex challenges and environments in our outer world. So their solution, well, of course, was to start on the inside, the inner dimension, by addressing things like our worldviews, our mindsets, our attitudes, our values. Well, how? By developing the abilities and the qualities and the skills that we need as individuals, as groups, and as organizations to work towards fulfilling those SDGs, those global goals, and in the process creating a more thriving and flourishing planet. So what did they call their product? Well, it's a very similar name, so don't confuse it. They called it the Inner Development Goals, or IDGs. And it's been 4 years now since the IDGs were launched. It's a not-for-profit and open source initiative that has the aim of educating, inspiring, and empowering us to be a positive force for change in society and to find a more purposeful way to look at our lives. So again, I would love to be able to show you the colorful IDGs framework, but as we know, this is radio, Ian, but you can Google it now or after this episode is over. What you would see is that the IDG framework consists of a set of 23 skills divided into 5 dimensions, which are the following: being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. And the framework functions a bit like a roadmap that helps us navigate our inner lives to help bring about outer change in the world. You could get a bingo every time I mention the word change, but we'll do that another time. So given our time limitations, I'm just going to skip through and touch on a couple of the skills, maybe one in each of the 5 dimensions so that you know what I'm talking about. And seeing as I was talking about the big C earlier, I'm going to select those skills that happen to start with a C, because otherwise it's quite hard to choose between them. So in the first dimension, the being dimension, we'll look at the skill of the inner compass. So this skill is about having a deeply felt sense of responsibility and commitment to values and purposes relating to the good of the whole. Our inner compass gives us direction based on what's truly important to us. It's like our guiding star. Then moving on to the second dimension, the thinking dimension, I've chosen the skill of complexity awareness. So this often rare skill is about understanding and becoming skilled at working with complex ecosystems and the systemic nature of so much that's in our world, from families to communities to companies and organizations and governments. Everything is essentially in a system, within another system, within another system. You get what I'm saying, Ian? It's a bit like one of those Russian dolls, something inside another,
yes,
inside another.
Exactly.
So that's complexity awareness. Then under the relating dimension, I'm highlighting connectedness, which is all about building a strong sense of being connected with or part of a larger whole, again, like a community or civilization or a global ecosystem. It's more about focusing on what we have in common than what keeps us apart. And then in the collaborating dimension, I've picked communication skills, which I have spoken about before. As you know, I'm a huge fan of communication, and it is essential in any change-making initiative. So communication skills are about being able to listen to others, to manage conflicts constructively, and to adapt messaging to diverse groups, as I've probably mentioned before. And then lastly, in the acting dimension, I choose the IDG skill of courage, because it is a really important skill to have. most of the time these days, but certainly when we're needing to stand up for our values, to make difficult decisions, to take decisive action, and if needs be, to challenge and disrupt existing structures and views, which is something I think you've probably figured out is something I like to do. So after whizzing through all of that in a nutshell, which doesn't really give it much justice, what do you think so far, Ian? Do you have anything that jumped out at you amongst the inner development goals that you think resonate with you?
Very interesting. Actually, all of them, Julia?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to hear that. Good to hear that. There are there's so many goodies. I mean, there are ones like long-term visioning. There's humility, appreciation, empathy and compassion, trust, creativity, optimism, perseverance. So yeah, you give me a moment and I'll go on for hours and hours, which I know we don't have. So, but what I can tell you, Ian, is that there has been incredible progress made. Unlike the SDGs, I can report that the IDGs they seem to be taking off. They have been translated into 11 languages around the world and counting, which I think is spectacular. Big multinationals like Google, IKEA, Ericsson have actually incorporated the IDG framework into their organizations, and there are countless other global corporate and institutional partners. So that's sort of higher education and things like that too. There's been a global leadership program that's been launched to develop and strengthen leadership capacities, using the IDGs to further sustainability objectives across a wide range of sectors. The government of Costa Rica has embraced the IDGs and co-developed a manifesto to help use the skills to generate greater prosperity, equality, and healthier life in their country. And believe it or not, the IDGs have even caught the attention of the White House. An event was held recently at Harvard University to announce a new collaboration between US government agencies, educational NGOs, and the Inner Development Goals Foundation to explore how to integrate the IDGs into schools and colleges and museums and aquariums and businesses and communities across the USA, which I think is pretty wow. And then perhaps most importantly, certainly for me, there is now a thriving global community of IDG practitioners, scientists, employees, consultants, coaches, and more, who are working together to put this open source IDG framework into action collectively. There are over 500 IDG hubs across over 80 countries on this planet. And I'm proud to say that here in our region, I have co-founded the IDG Southern African Network, which is kind of a hub of hubs that helps coordinate and resource our IDG hubs from around the Southern African region. And we are growing in leaps and bounds. It's super exciting. Last week we added Namibia, and now I think we're looking at Botswana potentially.
Look at you.
So really,
wow.
Please join us. So actually, having started off a little bit bleak, I do have plenty of good reasons to feel positive about life. And I just need to apply some of the IDGs myself. Perhaps optimism is one I should be choosing today. And with that, I will be better equipped to tackle some of these very sad challenges in life, which I think we're all facing and maybe struggling with. So if any of our listeners think that the IDGs are a good fit for their organization, or you'd like to join an IDG hub, or maybe you're just curious to know more, please feel free to drop me a line and we can set up a time to chat one-on-one if that appeals to you. So all I can say is let's all go and have a nice feel-good weekend, Ian, hopefully filled with health, none of the big C, lots of happiness
Yeah.
and lots of inner strength for everyone listening in, and for yourself, Ian.
Oh, thanks, Julia. Thank you so much. This has been very, very insightful. I was just listening and listening and listening and taking it all in, you know. It's nice to just listen for a change and not do all the talking.
I'm sure that doesn't happen often, so
No.
enjoy it while it lasts, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. But Julia, thank you so much. Also, give us your website again, and how do we get in touch with you?
Yes, it's easy. It's www.thecircularstage.com, as in a stage that is circular, thecircularstage.com. And all my contact details are on there, as well as a contact form. So you're welcome to fill that out. Otherwise, check me out on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect with you, and we can also communicate through that. So, yeah, I'm here.
Awesome, Julia. Thank you so much. Until next Friday for more Flourishing Fridays. Do we know what we're going to talk about next Friday or not yet?
Well, that is a surprise,
Okay.
but I can tell you that I'm certainly leaning towards covering some of the topics that I guess most people would put in the category of sustainability, maybe
okay.
regeneration. So
Nice.
what I would welcome is that if any of your listeners are curious or they'd like to know about a particular topic that is in the flourishing neck of the woods or sustainability, then by all means, please, they must feel free to send through a request, and I will try and talk about the things that people find most interesting. Otherwise, I will do my best to come up with something really interesting next week, and hopefully a little bit less depressing.
No, it wasn't too depressing. It was actually, I mean, it's realistic, but it all had a positive spin in the end, I think, Julia. But yeah, do send us a message. You know, you can send it on the website. Just click on Contact the Studio, or there's also the WhatsApp line on the website, or you can, even on social media, on the Facebook page, there's a WhatsApp button. You can click on it and then send us a message. Or if you want me to manually give you the number, 061 253 0670, then send us a message, and then we'll pass it on to the lovely Julia.
Awesome. I look forward to it. I hope people are going to start sending through their ideas soon.
Yeah, me too. Julia, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, Ian, and you too. Chat to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.